last year the King of Malaysia, he asked a few things. Can you like throw a chair? I say, our chair is fixed. You can, even you want to, you can't. I actually have a button. If I press on it, I mute you.
Oh, really? For real?
Real. At the speaker's chair, I have one button.
Everyone
mute everyone.
I press on it, you can nothing comes up. When you think about it, since 1997, 20 years it's been part of this GRC, Marine Fleet GRC. And in spite of it, for 20 years being part of the GRC, people still, why is Braddell Heights part of the GRC?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yah Lah, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
Today is another one of those episodes.
No, but it's not another one of those.
Another one extra special.
We've come full circle, my friend. We've come full circle.
Yeah.
Why? Why do we?
Because our guest in front of us, his first interaction with our podcast was in a very different setting. Yeah, it was a very different setting.
He has made sure that our podcast was immortalized in Singapore's history.
In the Hansa, yeah. And he mentioned your name and my name multiple times. So we would like to welcome the 11th Speaker of Parliament, Speaker Seah Kian Peng.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome to Yah Lah BUT.
Yeah. Morning, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time.
No, happy to see all of you in person.
Yes. I mean, we were referencing the occasion when Yah Lah BUT was mentioned in Parliament. I think when you brought it up regarding Decorum in Parliament, which we will go there. But I did want to ask you, like, was that the first time you ever heard of Yah Lah BUT?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
so you've done well.
Okay.
Your podcast is reaching, I think, quite a wide audience.
That's good. But when you saw the thing come out, were you like, these guys again? Why are they causing? Or generally, it was positive perspectives.
No, I think generally all are okay. But of course, for that particular one, I had to take it was referred to me. In fact, a few of my friends, they sent this to me and say, "Hey, did you see this?" And obviously, then I went in and I saw the thing, and the one which obviously I took a personal interest was the references to the speaker.
And that was like less than a year since you took over as speaker, right?
About a year, I think. I'm into this job coming to 2 years.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So before we drill deep into that, maybe a bit more about your own background as well, because you've actually been in Parliament since 2006.
Yes, this is my fourth term. So I would be one of the older.
The OGs.
The OGs.
So I got into politics in 2006. This is my fourth term, coming to about 19 years now and counting.
Yeah. And you've always been at Braddell Heights.
Yes. So I've been very fortunate. I've stayed at the same place for the last 19 years.
Yeah. Because I think that's one of the things that people don't think about, right? The kind of relationship that you build up with your constituents over the many, many years, right? For you, like, what does when you think about your Braddell Heights constituents, what do they mean to you? What do they feel like to you?
Well, when you spend 19 years at any place, it could be an organization. In my instance, it's the constituency. It becomes part of you. Same place for 19 years. I've seen young kids now becoming, and some become parents.
Yeah.
You've seen young adults, and you've seen older ones, and you grow up with a family. You grow up with your residents, and I walk there every weekend, so it's like a second home, honestly. My wife would say, I'm spending too much time, but I guess not just me, for any MP, when you are in public service, it is a calling, and inevitably, time will be taken away from your other things. Family. My friends were the first one to give up on me, because when I first started, they tried to call me, but most times you had to turn them down. For obvious reasons. So friends are the first ones. You prioritize family and your work, because I had a full-time job then. And of course, parliamentary constituency duties.
But so actually going back to 2006, like, what was the motivating factor for you to enter politics at that age?
I was already doing some community work then. And then around that, 1 or 2 years before that, my boss then asked me whether, I'd like to consider going to politics, because he said when you are in those positions, you can make a bigger impact on community. Right. So I would say that was the main thing when I thought about it. Obviously, you also, because it's not just you, it's your family as well. So my kids were very young then, so I obviously didn't check with them, but checked my wife. I agreed to come in, basically because I think when you have done community work, when you're able to make a difference, a positive impact on someone, individual, I think I'm sure it's the same for you. It's very gratifying. Like being able to help a friend, help your neighbor, help a family member. It's very gratifying. And again, likewise for all of us, I certainly have, my family have. We've received help in the past, and now when you're in a position, many years later, but you're in a position to be able to help others. I think one should.
But what was it you saw in your community work that made you want to make a difference? Like, were there certain social issues you saw, problems?
Everywhere I wasn't helping out at Braddell Heights. I was helping out in a family, you could say a family service organization. I help out in certain charities to do a few things here and there. Obviously, there will be, as I said, I come from my family, we were really poor once upon a time. Parents worked very hard. My sisters, they were bright, but they had to, after they finished A-levels, they didn't pursue their university. They came out to work to help the family. I was fortunate. I managed to land a government scholarship. It was a global scholarship. So family also didn't have to take care about university expenses then. So that only left my younger brother. So he studied here. So what I'm saying is that, I think having gone through all this, you can see how certainly education can help one break out the cycle. And if you work hard, seize the opportunities, things can get better. Better for you, better for your family. And in turn, now you're able to also give back.
So it does sound like social mobility is something that you experienced yourself and you believe very strongly in maintaining. We have to have that social mobility in society, right?
Yeah, I think that is that one thing which I think must never be lost. I think, the sense that one is not hopeless. There's no one out there to help you, or the system works against you. There's no avenue, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try. I think that will be... I think we certainly don't want it to happen in Singapore. You see it in some places outside of Singapore that they are in a less fortunate place.
Because I'm asking also because I think I've seen some of your speeches in Parliament where you have talked about wealth inequality in Singapore quite a bit. And in recent years, there's some literature out there about meritocracy and the pros and cons of meritocracy and how it can lead to certain ways of entrenched thinking in society. So how has that impacted you in terms of your own experience? How has it impacted you in terms of your thoughts about wealth inequality?
Yes, I think in almost every country, even in, you could say, non-democratic countries, even in communist countries, you see the wealth divide. Right. So I think it is very, very critical to make sure that, the divide, you should make the gap smaller, not perpetually widening. Because when a society, has that divide, and it's a bridge too far, to something at the end will happen. And it won't be good for the people, won't be good for the society, won't be good for the country. And which is why I think one of the things we have been trying to build a more caring, inclusive, but we are now saying we want to build a more giving society as well. And of course, not just recently, but a few years ago. So giving meaning that those who have, it could be time. give back. Those who have money, give back. And even in some of the things, it's the fiscal policies is also deliberately tilted that, I have some friends who are really rich. I say, it's targeted at you. You made it, you made it well and good, happy for you. But some of the taxes, in some cases the property taxes, really a very specific group. Those who stay in very either good, big homes in good locations.
But do you think enough has been done? Because when
it will always be work in progress. The job is never done. Right? No matter how much you bridge you narrow the divide, the Gini coefficient, you will want to make it smaller. The job is never done. The good news is that I think with the last few years, I think you've seen this by different measures. If you include all the various transfers, I think the wages and all that, I think there has been strong, serious attempts to really lift the wages of those who earn less. And at the same time, supplement it with various transfers. But all this taken together has had the effect of reducing the Gini coefficient.
So, the numbers might show that, but then why does it not feel that way? And I'm saying as a person, a curious citizen, I get the theory, and I actually do appreciate that. Even in your previous speeches, you have spoken about taxing second cars, third cars, supercars, which I was like, that would be whatever would be great. But of course, that hasn't happened yet, understandably so. But why do you think there is that feeling that?
Well, partly if you look back when I was a young kid, that time Singapore was predominantly, the number of people who were in the top income earners, the middle income, is not such a big group as it is now. Singapore, I would say right now, it's a good situation to be in. We have a much bigger middle class. The mass affluent is actually quite a lot. What has changed? It's true. You ask everyone, no one will say, things are more expensive now. It is a fact. Things are more expensive. But at the same time, if you measure, I don't think there's a measure. We talk about inflation, but is there a measure of how expectations and what we consider as starting points in terms of our life needs, the expectations? I think it has gone up quite a lot too. If you roll, you guys are still young.
We might not be as young as you think.
No, much younger than me. Really, when I roll back, when I was just starting out, what were the things I was aiming for? But what are the things that people now starting out, what are they aiming for? Quite different. Now, even you have young kids, right? What do you expect of them? What are they expected to have, do, be able to do? Very different.
But do you think that it is even possible for Singapore to, because as from a perspective of a layperson, who reads the news, looks at trends, looks at what's happening in the world, it feels like Singapore is going to need to cater to, for lack of a better term, the ultra rich to come to Singapore and set up and become like a state where it becomes less of the kind of heartland vibe and more we want people to come and do business here, and then it feels like that whole term of Singapore Inc. I know that's an analogy people have used. It feels like it's going that way, and then when you see what's happening in international politics, where there's the heartmen, like negotiating, like Trump is making everything about transactions, commercial transactions. Is it even realistic to think that Singapore can have like more of this utopia feeling?
I think what we need to do is to always focus on trying to see how we can grow the pie bigger. And in the process, bring everyone up. Not bring the top down. Right? You want those who made it, you want them first to continue growing the economy. You want them to give back to society. But at the same time, we also want to lift everyone up. If through their actions we can lift everyone up, if more businesses come here, there'll be knock-on effects. Right? More jobs created. Well, again, it's not binary. We shouldn't take a position where if you win, I lose.
Yeah.
Can there be situations where both sides win? And if you take a very narrow view, unfortunately, in some countries, I think America is probably going through that period where it's just Americans first, but verdict is not out yet. Right? I think, right? And it's not just me saying that. You ask every leader out there, they're also asking, is this the way to go? Not sure yet.
Not sure yet.
He may be right, but I think most of us think may not be quite right.
Yeah. So then what made you want to take up the role of speaker? Because I mean, as an MP, like I don't know what the intricacies are of a speaker, whether you can raise a bill. I'm guessing not.
I can't.
You can't, right?
I did raise a private member's bill some time back, but you can only do that when you're not the speaker.
Yeah. So I mean, given that you had spoken about things like, I think at one point you also talked about maybe the tax structure needs to change. We cannot keep comparing ourselves to Hong Kong. And it felt like, okay, there's someone in Parliament voicing out that tax structure needs to change. We need to change things policy-wise. But then when you become speaker, like, doesn't that give you less agency?
Well, I have a different role now, for sure. I'm the speaker, so the speaker comes with certain functions, the ability to raise your views, of course, if you're a backbencher, you can raise it in Parliament, but you can also raise it in other avenues, through other avenues. Likewise, I mean, when I was a backbencher, it wasn't only through Parliament that those issues get raised.
Yeah.
Many things take place behind, right? I mean, that as a speaker, it doesn't stop me from giving my comments to this minister, that minister, wearing my hat as the MP for my Braddell Heights, my constituents, raising things which I think, I think this one I think there's a merit in looking at this. Feedback is this. Can you take a look at that? Doesn't stop me from asking for things which are better that will make lives better for my residents, whether it is putting a pair of lifts to one of the overhead bridges. So that doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Of course, I can't say this directly in Parliament, but it doesn't mean there are no other avenues to raise these things.
You mentioned that at that then PM, now Senior Minister Lee was the one who made the call to ask you to...
He nominated me.
And like, what was going through your mind when he actually spoke to you about it? Like, did considerations like what Harish was saying about your role changing, was that something that weighed on you?
Well, I would say that one does. I think the role of speaker, the position of Speaker of Parliament comes with heavy responsibilities. So it is a job that you need to. When PM called me to speak to me on that, I asked him to give me time to think it over. Of course, we all know what happened then. It was a period when there were a lot of things happening. And certainly for then PM, I think he had a lot of things that he had to manage. This being one of them. I came into politics in 2006, so I guess I'm one of the more senior backbenchers. I have had experiences as I was a deputy speaker for a period of time. I chaired certain committees, the estimates committee. I also had I would say quite a lot of corporate experience. Corporate experience meaning that I had managed big organizations. I had sat on global boards. So I guess maybe he was also probably took all this into account. And this shouldn't come from me, but if you ask many of those who know me, whether friends or colleagues or even residents, they will probably describe me as someone who is a bit quite calm, quite collected.
Yeah.
We do get angry from time to time, but they say I don't get angry so quickly or so often.
Yeah.
So maybe it's all of this that then PM saw and said he wanted to nominate me and whether I'll consider that nomination. So I asked for time because again I wanted to talk to my family. Which I did that night because I can't ask for too much time.
That night itself.
Not so nice.
Tell PM Lee, just give me 2 weeks.
After dinner coffee.
Yeah.
Give you the answer.
Yeah. So I discussed a bit with my family, and then the next day I wrote PM something first for him to read before I say, after I read that, then we have the conversation. I find this writing sometimes helps because I think you put the points down.
Yeah.
Rather than just immediately get into a conversation. So at least there's some reference point and things which when you put things in writing, it's clearer. And it also captures, puts everything in context and the points you want to convey across.
But that also meant that you had to step down from a lot of roles.
Actually, this is something which probably people misunderstand. Actually, as a speaker, theoretically, if I wanted to, I could stay on my job. And whatever job you are doing, I didn't have to resign.
Okay.
But my other job was quite
hefty,
quite heavy. Heavy in terms of responsibilities, heavy in terms of time commitments.
Can't be a side hustle.
No, I think it will be bad on all counts. Bad in terms of my own time demands, health, stresses. I think bad also that I think I won't be able to, no matter how much you burn the candle on both sides, you will not do justice to the various organizations or various roles that you have. So I decided I will leave and resign from all my corporate. The good news is that I had always planned some of these. So succession planning at my other side was well in place.
And this would be like, say, you were CEO of NTUC.
I had already handed over my CEO role for FairPrice, but I had the CEO role for NTUC Enterprise. I was at once concurrent appointments. So I had all these in place. I had to just tell my successor that the plan wasn't immediately, but now it will be immediate. It will be quite soon.
I see.
So she stepped up, and so I resigned. I left all my corporate role shortly after I was elected. I was elected on early August.
But we're just speaking about the corporate role in NTUC for a second. How does that corporate role NTUC, how does it prep you or give you the skills needed to be a member of parliament, but also be the speaker of parliament?
Well, I think actually on all counts, as you know, we run various businesses. The one that I spent 22 years was with NTUC FairPrice. So you understand business. We have a staff strength of over 10,000 staff. Yeah, you understand how to. You meet a lot. I meet plenty of customers, consumers, my staff, and all that. So I think you're running businesses, and at the same time, you can actually sense and feel the pulse of the crowd. So actually, I think while running a business, managing an organization, it also helps me in my MP work, my constituency work. Yeah, so I actually think it was actually beneficial on all counts. I remember very vividly I went through SARS. We went through SARS when I was FairPrice. We went through COVID when I was at FairPrice. So just these two, amongst other things, there was a crisis in between. There was the bird flu, all kinds of things. But in doing all this, a few times I had to work quite closely with our. In the case of COVID, with MTI, because we're talking about stockpiling, we're talking about supply chains and all that. So I think I felt it was useful for me. It was helpful for me that I was both the CEO of NTUC FairPrice and an MP as well.
So when you took over as speaker, was it influenced in any way by the way your predecessor had to vacate his role? And I say that because as an observer, I was very disappointed at what happened. And it kind of tainted the role of Speaker of Parliament because and with the hot mic incident, it made this role feel does it like who are the people who get into this role, and it reduced the shine on the role. So when you took over, was that one of the considerations that you felt you needed to restore some legitimacy to it?
I won't say me. I would say that whoever assumes the speaker role, I think you want to make sure you are occupying that seat, that office, for a period of time. In my case, I'm the 11th speaker. There will be a 12th speaker at some point, right? And it's the same guiding principle that I apply to myself wherever I am, whatever role I am. I mean, as a CEO of FairPrice, you're also there for a period of time, right? Whatever role we are at, whatever chair we are assuming, whatever position we are assuming, I think you want to protect and you want to uphold what that position, what that chair means. In the case of the Speaker of Parliament, it's a very big position. You know that in any democracy, there's the legislature that makes the laws, and the head of the body is me, the Speaker, right, the Parliament. Then you have the executive, which is the government of the day, right? They administer the law. Of course, they formulate policies. Yeah. And then you have the judiciary, headed by Chief Justice. They interpret the law, right? So for this one, making the law so that laws that are made in Parliament, debated at the end whether passed or not passed, or amended or whatnot, but laws that are made, they affect people, they affect families, they affect businesses. So it's serious business. So we need all three to function properly. Yeah, laws to be made, and the right laws, hopefully, or well-thought laws. You need to also administer it properly. And then if it has to go to a court, it needs to be interpreted properly as well. Yeah. What's different Singapore versus the rest? In some countries, somehow making laws is a problem because either they take a hell of a long time, or they keep debating, and a lot of compromises here and there. Some administering it not so great, right? And some is the cost not so great. Actually, you need all three to function properly in order but you're doing all this at the end, to benefit people, families, businesses, country. And I think in this regard, of course, have we made mistakes? Could we do better? Sure. But I think overall, when you put all things together, we've done not too bad, which is why actually we are 60 years this year, right? Yeah. 60 years is actually, by any measure, it's a very young country. To get to where we were to now, actually, that's why we've been described as a miracle by many people, leaders, historians, whatever. Sure. So yes, I think Terence, back to your question about what were the things that the need to uphold and protect the dignity and uphold the dignity of the speaker. The office. Office is not the person. The office is very important. Yeah, and the integrity of how Parliament, how is the conduct of proceedings is critical. Sure.
So I mean,
I should also add, which is why I think when you look at how there are parliaments in every country, right? Sure. I have met many of my counterparts when we exchange notes. Yeah. There are some things we can learn from them, but there are many things they look at us, they say, they want to learn from us.
Like no punching in Parliament or something.
I tell you something very funny. Last year the Agong, the King of Malaysia,
he came.
For some reason, he actually wanted to visit Parliament House and hosted him. So he was accompanied by his Minister for Transport, Anthony Leong. So as we were going through, after a short discussion, we brought him around the chamber. He asked a few things. One of the things, now that I mentioned about chair, he said, "Hey, can our chair, can you all throw a chair?" I say, Our chair is fixed. You can even you want to, you can't.
If there's an option, they have to ask, hey, your parliament can throw chair.
That's the research they do. That's
No, I'm sure he meant it as a joke but you've seen in some parliaments.
It gets bad, yeah.
Yeah, it gets. Some they resort to these kind of things. Some they resort to just out shouting each other. And there are worse things that happen.
So do you? I mean, in some sense, because Parliament has its own rules and everything that the layperson might not have. Would an appropriate analogy be kind of like the speaker kind of also has to be like a discipline master and maintain the discipline of Parliament and lay the smackdown on people if they get out of line?
Yes. I think in any organization, in any setting, like even you want to play, we were talking about sports just now. Even you play any sports, you need rules, right?
Yeah.
No rules, no thing how to have a proper game.
Yeah.
So in our case in Parliament, we have a small book lah. It's called the Standing Orders.
Yeah.
So which essentially is the rule book.
Yeah.
What you can do, what you can't do. If you want to do something, what's the process and all that. So it's there. In fact, any new MP, whether an MP, NMP, NCMP, part of the orientation is to also review about what the rules are. The Standing Order is not it's a small book. So as long as we sign up, when you come into this, we got to sign up to something. So we all agree, this is the rule book, and as long as you play within the rule book, you'll be fine. You could say I'm the
VAR.
Referee.
Yeah, the referee or the playback.
Referee. Yeah. In a sense, you're the referee, and you want to make sure that you apply the rule book consistently, fairly, and also transparently.
So I mean, on the topic of rules, which brings us back to the first thing that we spoke about. Your mentioning of Yah Lah BUT in Parliament, with the context being that the NCMP Leong said something on our podcast. So I mean, I can understand why you might have felt the need to focus on it. And I assume it's partly what you said, to uphold the rule book, uphold Decorum. But it felt like it brought a lot more attention to it, and it almost painted the system as being almost too sensitive.
I would put it's not about being sensitive or not. If there is something which is said of a position, or about Parliament, about how it's conducted, or about, in this case, about the speaker. I mean, if it's true, fine. But if some things if it's not quite true, and you don't correct it, so the question is, if you don't correct it, what happens?
Yeah.
Your podcast reaches out to quite a lot of people. And people can refer, just as I got in that instance, I didn't watch, it was a friend, in fact, not more than one friend, a few, hey, have you seen this? So the reach goes out, uncorrected, and we all know, actually, sometimes it's a drip effect.
Yeah.
You don't correct anything, after a while, people, I think, they may not say it directly, but hey, I think so, I think it's like that, it's this, that. So of course, I mentioned, it's not so much about me. Right, but you said the speaker was, in short, kind of insinuating the speaker was not quite fair, and the way he conduct the proceedings.
Yeah.
Right. So if you imagine it's you how would you feel? Not quite right I mean, if it was, fine. But which is why I certainly felt that needs to be corrected. It's the same, whether it's spoken by anyone, of anybody. If somebody makes something untrue about another parliamentarian, about minister, it could go either way. If it's not true, I think it needs to be corrected. And it's said on public, see. I mean, in private one, okay, no one knows, right?
Yeah.
But this is public.
I mean, I do appreciate that there was a level of process in terms of when you're addressing Leong Man Wai, what he said, that you actually wrote to him, you detailed that you actually he even met you in your office and everything as well. So there was a very, very thorough process of trying to clarify exactly what happened. You pulled up instances where he got called and all. So in some way, given how early it was in the speaker tenure as well, there was a need to clarify if someone said something that was insinuating something that was not, right?
Because at the end, when I called him, I had a conversation with him. Of course, he said, "Oh, I wasn't referring to you," but it was. I mean, it wasn't clear. He said speaker, not former speaker.
Yeah.
And if you say speaker, you must. Who's the speaker? So you don't leave things like that hanging. I assume it's unintentional.
Yeah.
But I'm there to. As I said, I'm the 11th speaker. I'm there for a period of time. My job is to make sure that, number one, conduct of Parliament is done properly, smoothly.
Yeah.
There's order, preserve the dignity of Parliament. What you don't want to, in fact, you see this across the world. The trust in many institutions is eroding. When you lose trust, when there's no order, things break down.
Yeah.
Things will not function as well, right? And it's not one of those where you can switch on, switch off. Okay, let's turn on the trust factor. Let's turn on from disorderly to orderly. Not so easy, right? We all know it takes years to earn the trust of whoever. Right?
Yeah.
All it needs is one mistake, one slip up, gone.
Yeah.
So we are actually a society these days also. We beat ourselves a bit. Maybe we are a bit harsh with each other, right? Maybe less tolerant, less. But
we as in like the country, the society, everyone.
I think everyone. We are. You could be doing. Malaysia could be doing 101 things right. But there was one small thing you didn't do quite right. I just hammer on that small thing, and it's no one is
human nature.
It's human nature. But I think we also sometimes need to take things into perspective and really look at the context.
Yeah.
And again, these days it's so easy to just take something out without really understanding the full context, and then making a judgment, coming to certain conclusions about it. It may be the right one, but I think sometimes if you look at everything, you may come to a different conclusion.
Sure. So I mean, because our parliament was in international spotlight recently, some certain things that happened. I think there was the use of a Cantonese phrase in Parliament directed at Leong right? That even South China Morning Post wrote an article about it and everything. I mean, and there were questions online about the decorum of members of Parliament addressing each other using dialects, which I think Harish and I, we also, when we spoke about it on our podcast, you mentioned about the idea of why was a dialect being used in official correspondence in Parliament?
And also the fact that I think there was a request for him to translate, which he kind of pushed aside. So that there were a lot of things that we did discuss.
So I mean, we did want to.
I missed the episode.
Okay,
but
we can
actually
send you the
first to correct it. Certainly in all speeches in Parliament can only be made in the four official language. Right. Of course, most of us use English. Sometimes you put on a earphone because you want to hear the Chinese, Malay, or Tamil.
Yeah.
Of course, if they're speaking the other languages which you're not familiar with, you put on a earphone and tune to the English channel.
Yeah.
But to put on record, actually, I think today one of my colleagues wrote a letter to the forum because there were two letters to the forum on this same topic. So to make it very clear, speeches must be in the four official languages. Do we allow members meaning it could be MP, Minister, NCMP, NMP, to pepper your speech with other languages or dialect even? Yes, we do, but only sparingly. Is this the first time that Cantonese was used? Is this the first time dialect was used? No. And members from both sides of the house have used it sparingly. And it's not a full speech, it's just a few words here and there. So just to set the record straight. And on Naresh's point about I did ask him. I was sick time I understood, but I think for the benefit of everyone, I did request him to make to translate in English for those who do not comprehend Cantonese. So he said, he said what he said in English was the gist of it. It was a very summarized version. It wasn't literal. So okay lah, I let it pass. He said that because immediately after he finished his Cantonese, he had a like one-liner to say what was it, which was his way of saying, and he did say, "Oh, that's the gist of it."
Yeah.
So I mean, the language.
Now we have to translate from the Hansard, what I say in word by word.
I mean,
so that will come out. Hansard, sorry,
no problem.
That's for interrupting. Hansard records every single word that's said. So if you say Ninkamput, you'll come out Ninkamput. So in this case, it will be a literal translation of the Cantonese into English. Word literal translation. So it'll be captured.
I mean, the language aside, people also were talking about the content of what was being said. In terms of sort of chastising Leong Man Wai for certain lines of questioning. So, I mean, we talk about in the age, where we see things like Trump, Zelensky in the White House and how they're speaking to each other and things like that. Does it worry you that we are going in that direction?
I hope, and we should not allow it to go that way. I think it is okay. I mean, debates, it can quite get heated. We can be very passionate about. I can be very passionate about one view. You can be very passionate about another view, and we are on opposite sides. We argue our case with our passion, but we at the end sometimes we can all agree. I respect your point of view. You also have to respect my point of view. I cannot insist, right? And we can agree to disagree. And at the end, that should be how debate should be conducted. And of course, I also remind everyone it will be good if we can to get into any debate based on, let's do our homework. Every one of us, you better do your homework, right? You don't want to get caught. You didn't quite do your homework. And homework means you make sure you get your facts right. Then you can argue your case better, right? And also, then you can also debate with reason. Right. So that's the ideal. Right? And of course, again, same. Is to also be. There are certain rules about time as well. So I also have to make sure that you don't be too chonghei lah. You're some very verbose. Long-winded lah.
Just translating.
So there are some rules related to how long a speech can be. For ministers, it's 40 minutes. For the rest, it's 20 minutes. Leader of opposition, special. He got special privileges. He can speak longer. So things like that, right? And again, there are some rules. Sometimes clarifications. We need all these rules because if we don't have some of these rules, there are. If you have full house, you have almost 100 members in there. Many years ago, one MP spoke for 7 odd hours.
Wow.
So, of course, you don't say everyone speaks for 7, but you can imagine, right? And certain things, if you ask, I ask, you answered. I'm not sure. I clarify again. You answer again. Then clarify again. But after a while, it's the same, more or less same clarification. So I say, okay, I think we should move on.
Okay. But I mean, even in that case, like building on what Terence said, there are many ways to say the same thing, right? You can say something respectfully. And again, as an observer watching that, and also because I didn't understand the phrase, and I think even some, like you had to Google the phrase, right?
I had to.
It did feel like, you mentioned that there needs to be trust in institutions. There needs to be trust in our leaders. And I will say watching that, and I hope Minister Tan See Leng comes on our podcast because I would like to ask him as well. Is he not aware that by conducting himself that way, I, as just an observer, felt like it's a bit ironic because he was chastising someone for being divisive, but at that moment, I felt he was talking to a crowd that wasn't me. So that's where I feel like it's a bit ironic. And I do respect you asking him to translate, but the fact that could be brushed over, I don't think it was a positive thing for people observing. And I wanted to just understand how you felt about that, because at the end of the day, Parliament is live streamed. One question I wanted to ask is also whether you think there's a net benefit to that. But people watch it, and then it becomes a thing like, oh, it left a salty taste. And also the fact that everyone behind him was laughing, when he said that. Because you didn't listen to the episode, but I shared the experience that I've had in the workforce where being a non-Mandarin speaker among Mandarin colleagues, there are a lot of inside jokes that happen. And I always, it was one of my pet peeves. So seeing it in Parliament, I was like, oh, then we were talking about, is this the future of politics where it is about, just the aggressor kind of like mocking and all that, and that wasn't a good sign. Yeah.
No, so you're right that, whoever wants to use sparingly, languages or dialects other than the 4 official ones, they should translate as well.
Yeah.
How you translate, you may want to do it literally word for word, or you could also do a summary of it. That is to be expected, right? Because otherwise you leave those who don't understand the dialect or the language. You left them behind. No one knows. So I think that is to be expected, and that should be done.
Yeah.
We can argue whether was his gist, as Seah describes it, was that enough?
Yeah.
Was that a good summary? Okay, I guess that's
subjective.
Subjective.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that again, since we talk about Seah, a few, I don't know, I can't remember, a few sittings ago, there was one where he was trying to say something. I told him, hey, wait, Dr. Tan, you sit down first. So I didn't think too much about it, but someone said, hey, wow, you told a minister to sit down.
And I remember
that.
I think it was the workplace fairness bill.
I think so, a little bit, Anyway, the point I want to make is that, I know being the speaker, there continue to be someone say, oh, speaker not so fair, this and that. I, hand to heart, I always said, it's not for me to say, but it's for people the members are in particular, members, to say, have I been fair to them? And you ask both sides of the house. And if Mr. Leong is here, I've asked him a few times. He has told me I've been fair. And I can look through everything. I know how I conduct, who I call, who I ask, when I pick up the hand, how much time I call it. I have a system. I'm very confident to say that I don't think I've discriminated against anyone. Whether you're NCMP, NMP, leader of the opposition, minister or member. One good test is that every member, and I was a backbencher once, you always feel that, hey, speaker, you should call me first. Why you call me, And sometimes never call me, Everyone feels, you ask, everyone say, why? So I think that I'm probably doing it consistently.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
So, but you see, sometimes you all don't see, when I call questions, people raise up their hands. You could be the first one to raise your hand. You may only raise your hand last. If you raise your hand last, you'll be the last speaker because you're the last member to ask for clarification.
Sure.
But I always end by saying, any more clarifications before I move on. Right. And so I think, again, I have a way in which if you had filed, Terence, you filed a question, but you didn't. Right, you didn't. Then after you asked a question, the minister responded, you want some clarifications. You both raise your hand. Of course, I call you first. I call Terence first. And if there's time, I may call others. Because, nowadays in each sitting, there's, I almost said hundreds. No, that's exaggerating, but there's a lot of questions that the highest I've ever seen in one sitting is 120.
Wow. 120.
And we have already, question time is 90 minutes. And which is why I always say we should try to have as many as we can within that 90 minutes. That 90 minutes, but time flies. If, number one, sometimes the ministers answer also quite long. I also tell I say this, apply the same rule. I say, you all also try to keep your answers succinct. Right? And then the clarifications or supplementary questions from members, also keep it short. So some also then turn into the preamble very long. So all this takes time.
Sure.
The more you know, these are taken up. I can only go to question 10
Yeah.
in 90 minutes. Or I hope to get to 20.
Mm-hmm.
The less we go, I'm able to call, the less people are able to get their answers.
You don't want to consider like some music, you know, like the Academy Awards?
I actually have a button. If I press on it, I mute you.
Really? For real?
Real.
Oh, wow.
All the rostrums, is it? All the rostrums?
No. Only me.
You can
one who
mute
chairs at the speaker's chair. I have one button.
Everyone
mute everyone.
I press on it. You can nothing comes.
It's like God is God mode.
That's like the red button. You have to open up the thing, then two people have to press it at the same time.
But you mentioned just now a little bit about, you know, sometimes if we don't watch the full parliamentary sitting, and then, you know, we get misconceived notions about like who gets called first and things like that. And that's something that comes with watching Parliament, right? Like being there in person, in fact.
Being there in person. Because even, as you know, now it's live stream. It's been live streamed since 2021. So the good thing is that it allows people to just tune in from anywhere. Right? You could be at the beach, overseas, you can still tune in. But there's one thing which nothing beats like being in the public gallery. Because you see, you have 360 view of everything. Including me.
Correct.
In a live stream, you only see the one who's speaking.
Exactly.
Of course, sometimes they'll zoom out, they'll zoom cover.
We've gone multiple times and we recommend it to everyone.
But you agree.
But do you think it's a good thing now that Parliament is like live streamed entirely?
I think there are more benefits than disbenefits.
Okay.
The biggest benefit is that it allows people easy access. Otherwise, Parliament shouldn't be something very secretive, you know, don't know what's happening. I want to find out, also very difficult to find out. No. Which is why one of our things that we continue to do is this outreach. So we are very happy when, in fact, groups come to visit to the Parliament. We're happy to host them, show them around. And we just want to demystify what Parliament is all about. So this live streaming certainly helps. Our own way of outreach to tell people what it is, what standing orders are, how do you table a bill, and all the things are. So the more people understand, I think it will help. For sure.
But you know, like the one thing that we are always hearing is that we need to increase productivity, we need to be efficient and all that. And watching Parliament, it does feel there's a lot of ceremonial actions that take place. And I think it's, I mean, to me, when we were watching it, it's like, okay, this tells me that this has been around for a long time. But in the spirit, you know, of everything we've been trained on as Singaporeans, productivity, do you ever see those things moving away? Like certain things, you know, like even there's the flag bearer, there's the
Sergeant at Arms.
Sergeant at Arms. And all those take time, right? And Parliament sessions can really go on for so long. Even, I think it was a recent thing that we saw one video where even the wording has been simplified to make it more accessible, right? But what is the reason for having all these very ceremonial type things, and what do you think it adds to Parliament?
Okay, I think, well, we
inherited from the British,
UK, right? So a few things indeed, these are practices, these are customary. But are there ways where we could make it more? I wouldn't use the word simplify, but can we make it more efficient without losing the certain things which are either customary, but make it and the dignity of it? You know, you want to have certain decorum. Are there ways that we can think about to achieve both? I think we will want to do that. So the recent example you mentioned, in fact, it used to be for the longest time, after each reading, you know, when I put it to the members, as many as are of the opinion say aye, right? So we change it to, when you think as many as are of the opinion say aye, what does it? It's actually
those who agree.
Those who agree say aye. A lot easier, very straightforward. Well, it's, you know.
More practical.
So that one we change. In fact, we just change. And I think it has been for the better. Can we do more things like that to simplify and all that? I think we will. I mean, many years ago, can you imagine, you know, wearing the wig?
To wear the wig.
So that one we, although I still have that wig in the It's in a box in my office.
Oh, really?
You break it out on special occasions.
No.
But one thing I did want to ask, and this is just my own personal curiosity. Like, we see quite heated debates in Parliament. Then after that, everyone, okay, lunch break or whatever, then they go their separate ways. Is there, what's interaction like after that? Do people who have very heated exchanges, do they interact? Do you have to force them to, hey, come and shake hands and let's all just have a coffee together?
No, I think everyone is an adult, right? But we do have a members' room.
Okay.
Members' room meaning during the break, certainly.
Yeah.
Everyone refreshments are provided. The members' room is, I would say, for members. So during the break, everyone will go there, have a break, have coffee, chit-chat.
Yeah.
How they sit, where they sit, who they talk to.
Okay.
I don't.
You don't preside over there. You're not speaker in the members' room also.
Please.
But I tried. My break is very short, right? Because that's the only time I have.
Yeah.
So I will sometimes I just chat with certain people.
But it also shocks me, like, you have to listen to the whole proceedings, almost like you have to.
You should. But so you train your ear.
Yeah.
I mean, hand to heart, there will be speeches which are some very exciting. Some, in fact, some bills are really quite. That's why very few speakers also, because either straightforward, nothing controversial.
Yeah.
Controversial. But there will be some which are really interesting, and you can see that also because more people speaking, more members speaking.
Yeah.
And then, of course, even sometimes speakers themselves, their speeches, some make really interesting speeches. So that keeps you. So you're select. I cannot say I listen to every word.
Yeah.
There's a lot of coffee.
Even in any meeting that you go to, work meeting, same thing, right? So but you're able to discern
So then, there are many things that have been happening. There's live streaming, which I also agree. That feels like there's a net benefit. But with social media, with people getting more politically extreme, are you worried that the future of politics, especially in Singapore, is going to be more adversarial?
I think contestation will be there, right? And the exchange of ideas is always good. Sometimes if you sit in the chamber, you close your eyes, you just listen to some of the speeches. Sometimes some of the very passionate ones actually it's from the same party, from the ruling party. Sometimes, So not necessarily that that the ideas are always coming from one group and not the other group. I think if people have different views, nothing wrong with that. And in fact, you want people to be passionate, the conviction to be strong. Then you can argue and present your views. Why you take this view, why you're making that suggestion. Nothing wrong with that, and that should be encouraged.
Yeah.
Right. But you don't want the arguments to be to the point where you are actually not constructive. Of course, one can say is that subjective. But I would say that by and large, most people were when you look at everything, but you need to follow the debate from the start and in its entirety, right? And then so I hope more people get into this. We don't certainly have to tune into every sitting. Tune into those bills which matter to you, or which you think is important that you need to know what's happening, and eventually also have a say in it.
Okay. And just now, there's one thing about it becoming more adversarial. I think it does feel like general society, there are more people engaged in politics, and I don't know whether you agree with that. But then, do you also think that just now, you mentioned that you can do 100 things right and one thing goes wrong and people harp on that. Do you think that the expectation placed on MPs, especially of certain parties, are justified, or you think it's a bit unrealistic?
I think as public figures, we have to expect that we will be held to greater scrutiny, right? And it's also because the words we say reaches to a bigger audience. right? And therefore, I think that is a given. You cannot say, hey, don't take me seriously. You can't. You're a public figure.
Yeah.
Right? Having said that, I think the expectations expectations of public figure has to be higher for sure, because you're a public figure. Right? You're MP, you're NMP, you're NCMP, you're leader of the opposition. It has to be. But I think we also need to really, when we form an opinion of anybody, it should be, again, in its entirety. Not just pick up episodial, this episode, that episode. I started much earlier to say that no one is perfect, right? We will make mistakes. I have made mistakes. You have made mistakes. Of course, there are some which are, if it's really those OB, out of bounds, totally out on, you need to be chastised. You need to face the consequences.
Yeah.
But many others which are maybe, okay, it's not so serious. And that was the only one you made, that 101, the 101st one. The first 100 were all good, all right. You made a slip up there. He or she needs to learn from it, but we shouldn't hammer the person until it's got, not to be, not to be too harsh on the person.
Yeah.
Right. I think, and it's not. I'm not just talking about politics. It could be on anything, right? At the workplace, neighborly issues, family issues. That applies, and it's not just here. I think everywhere. I hope we the world is now. I think we are. There's unfortunately really more uncertainties and certainties. Sometimes some chaos is good. Of the right kind. Right. But I think what we are seeing around the world now is not the uncertainty that you would like. So at least not for me.
So you mentioned that, like, outside of politics also, I mean, people should not judge too fast, but as a public figure, how important you think it is about the conduct of someone's life outside of their role, and their role as a public figure, as a politician, as an MP, as a minister?
Both are important. You cannot say that your conduct only applies to inside your role as a MP, but when you're outside, then you can do anything. It cannot be.
Okay.
Right. If anything else, because you're MP, because you're a public figure, you have to expect that, again, as a public figure, it's a given that you are expected to do more. Conduct should be better because you're a public figure. But again, I qualify to say that if there'll be some slip-ups by everyone at some point in time. But don't forget the 100 things that he or she did right. And if that slip-up is not a very major one, give him or her a bit of take all this into consideration. But definitely conduct of that person outside of his MP or minister or whatever must be high also. Has to be. No two ways about that.
Yeah.
So I did wonder.
I mean, it's like you. If you're the boss of your company. Your staff would look up. I expect my boss to be better, right? To conduct properly. Right? You can't get away. You cannot use that.
Well, I'm not elected. No, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, you get what I mean. I mean, even in a public listed company, the shareholders can also expect that from the CEO, from the board, from the chairman, or not.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, because I know. I mean, I've even amongst friends and peers, not even for people who are in public figures. Sometimes when you have friends and they do certain things in other parts of their life, to me, it is a reflection of them as a person. Like, I find it very hard to dissociate from the different aspects of their life, because it all bleeds into each other. Yeah.
I mean, speaking of public perception, I did want to ask you a little bit about how you felt about the new EBRC report, where Braddell Heights is now a double-barrel name with Marine Parade GRC, right? Because all along, Braddell Heights has actually been part of Marine Parade GRC for since the 80s, really, I believe.
1997.
97. Okay. So it's been a long time, but now it's part of the GRC name. How did it feel when you first heard about it?
I actually am happier that our name is included. You see, when you think about it, since 1997, that's 28 years.
28 years, yeah.
20 years, it's been part of this GRC, Marine Parade GRC. And in spite of it, for 20 years being part of the GRC, people still, why is Braddell Heights part of the GRC? The unfortunate thing is that because the GRC it's not like, say, Tampines or Punggol, where, it could be Tampines Central, Tampines East, West, it's Tampines.
Yeah.
Ours is five distinct divisions.
Yeah.
And whatever name you call it, the other four will say, not quite right. Imagine if it was called Braddell Heights GRC.
Yeah.
Why is it? Why are we called Braddell Heights GRC?
Yeah.
And Kembangan will feel, why am I called? Why is Geylang Serai called? It won't be. So whatever name is the wrong name for the other four.
Yeah.
Right. So am I glad that now with this, it makes it clear that actually when you look at our this GRC, I'm the northernmost tip. Marine Parade is the southernmost tip of the GRC. And the rest are all in between.
Do your residents ever ask you, how come we're so far from the sea?
From day one, but it's, as I said, the choice of name, whatever choice we give, I think it's almost an impossible task to find the right name for a GRC which has, in our case, 5. Yeah. Not quite, doesn't share the same, same name of sorts. I use Pongo, I use Tampines as an example, where, the GRC is wherever it's called Tampines GRC, it makes a lot of sense. But in not many places, Singapore is not so big, right? Ang-Mo-Kio is quite big, but a lot of places you cannot just find one name. Any GRC now, you look very hard to find one name which everyone is happy with. And I guess in our case, it's really not easy.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize that Braddell Heights had always been part of Marine
since
Parade
1997.
Since 1997.
Yeah, I also didn't realize that.
So it's just the name.
The name. I just put there. At least now I can tell that I will get one question, one less question. Why is Braddell Heights? Now it is Marine Parade.
Yeah. Correct.
And I mean, okay, so now like you are that there's a lot that's going to be coming in the next few months. But looking back on your career, you've been in politics for quite a while. And it feels like, you have a streak in you where you like to change things. And correct me if I'm projecting, but just looking, at NTUC, I think it was under your leadership that they diversified into
all the different formats.
Yeah,
when I joined, we only had one format.
Yeah. So there was diversification, and I think it was also brought digital. And now as Speaker of Parliament, you want to change things. So it feels like you have a streak of wanting to change things and disrupt. So when entering politics, right, did any part of you feel like, okay, if I want to change things, I want to disrupt? You seem like you're a fan of healthy debates. Did you consider joining opposition? Like what made it so clear that you wanted to join the incumbent at that point in time?
Number one, I think you, in choosing a party to join, you look at a party which you think is a better party, better in terms of ability, better in terms of their track record, better in terms of a team that you think works hard, has the right value system. So for me, it was quite clear. In 2006, the PAP who asked me to join them was the better team.
Yeah. And going forward, like, because it was a very different time, right, between the how many seats were there of opposition in Parliament. Like, going forward, where do you see the future going for Singapore politics in terms of opposition representation and people's perspectives on that number? Because on one hand, you look in the US where it's like 51-49 and everything is so much slower to move. But having a super majority, that also has its own consequences. And I would say that from my perspective, that has resulted in a certain sentiment of people feeling a bit, things need to change. Even though their reasons might not be fully justified or backed up with credible reasons. Like, what do you think is important in the interest of Singapore?
I think definitely if I just go back earlier when you say when things evolve, we have to go with we have to make sure, because societies evolve, right? The important thing is for any party that wants to be credible, to make sure that they are with the people, understand the considerations, their concerns, and all that. As to where, this thing about check and balance, there are many, many ways that can be achieved. Right? You look at the corporate world, you look at a charity, look at a sports association. Where are the checks and balances? You look at the government, you look at the elections, where's the check and balance? If those are in place, then at the end, it's the people that will decide. But I would caution that, while we all, nothing wrong with change. The only precondition is that the change, we must be wanting a change for the better, right? So if when there's a contest, party A versus party B, right? One should evaluate which party is the better party. Not, I don't care what, now it's party A, I want to change to party B or party C or party D, right? Of course, there could be some who take that view, but I think the more important is look at the 2, 3, 4 parties who are in that contesting and pick which you think is the better one. Because that cannot be a wrong decision, right? You're picking the better party, right? And better must be in all respects. Right? And in fact, our founding Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew said it many times, nothing is a given. If a better party comes along and the PAP is not the one, then will there be a switch? There will be. So I think when in any elections, in picking it's like picking you're picking your star. You want to pick the one who is a better, which both may be good, but you want to pick the better one. So I would say, don't change. There's nothing wrong with change, but a change, if it's the same change, okay, there are pros and cons. But if it's change for the better, I think that's no-brainer. But you pick a change for the worse, not quite right. You're doing, not just you, but you're doing whichever community that or the whoever the stakeholders are a disservice.
In some way, we're seeing that real time, like in the US right now. In some ways,
you see some where some said they voted for this. They should have voted, and it could be vice versa. But I guess it's still early days. Well, that's them.
But in your estimate, do you think more people vote on emotion or vote on logic?
There's a bit of everything. Some are quite clear. Some vote purely on this. Some vote purely on emotion, and some vote on taking both into consideration. That's why elections are never, anything can happen. You have seen, you've seen all kinds of outcomes, right?
So if there's one message for the public and anyone who hears this that you want them to consider ahead of the election, or just thinking of Singapore politics in general, what would that message be?
I will say that we have done well, right? When whoever presents themselves for you to consider, do evaluate them squarely. If they have a track record, do evaluate their track record. If they don't have a track record, you have to also then evaluate based on whether you think they can really deliver what they promise or what they hope to do, right? And then put all this into your CPU and say, vote, pick the party that the team that you think is the better team.
Okay.
So for me, I have been. I again, it's not a given. We come in to serve when the PM feels that it's time to change. We don't. So if I am asked to stand again and to be in whichever, I hope. If I'm to stand again, I hope I'm in the same place. That'll be great because it's my second home. I will ask my residents to judge me based on all that I said.
Okay, great. That's a great message, and I mean, there's these next few months are going to be super exciting. But for now, we do always end off every episode with our one Shiok Thing segment. Which is where we just share something with our listeners that we have consumed, we have watched, or something that is shareable. So maybe like not your cooking, because no one can really experience that, and you don't want people flooding your house. So Terence and I will go first, and then you can go after us. Terence, you got your one Shiok Thing?
Actually a trailer recently dropped for a movie that I'm quite looking forward to. The movie is called Freakier Friday. I'm not sure if you all remember a movie.
It's a sequel.
A sequel to Freaky Friday with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. Now,
I think
everyone's much older, and everyone is... The whole premise was I think a mother and daughter, they switch bodies. They switch bodies, and then they woke up on a Friday and realized like, okay, I have to pretend to be a mother and she has to pretend to be a daughter. So now the Freakier Friday is the sequel, I think 20 years later, where now the granddaughters are involved.
But the same actresses.
Same actresses, Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis. So, I mean, it's just it's not a kind of show that I would typically get excited to watch, but because it's like it brought back all the old actors from 20 years ago, that's why I'm actually quite looking forward to it.
That's great. My one Shiok Thing is a recent song that dropped by this one rapper who's out of India actually. So I mean I won't say I listen to a lot of rap songs. And I don't speak Hindi or any of those of my mother tongue, but his rapper is called Hanuman Kind. I think you've heard of him, right?
Yes.
So he had one song go super viral last year called Big Dogs. And now his second video is called Run It Up. And why I love it, I think a few days ago it was launched, it's already got 16 million views, is he raps in English. But a lot of his videos, they look at these other sides of India that are somewhat forgotten or unknown. So in this video, it is all focused on Indian martial arts. I never even knew Indian martial arts existed. And it's just the visual style, as opposed, because he did say on some podcasts that he got a lot of advice from people in music saying you should target the regional languages. There's no point doing it in English. And for him, he was, no, like English is what I grew up on. I'm going to rap in English. But he also wants to make sure that he highlights what he cares about his home country in a way that brings it global. So when I saw in the comments, some comments were saying, oh, he's uniting the North and South better than any politician. Apparently, a lot of these martial arts were very active until they became a colony of the British. And then now they're slowly getting a resurgence. And cinematically, it's great. So, the reason why we first started doing content is because we believe so much in Singapore as a base for stories that can travel the world, which is why every show we have made, we try to use Singlish and all that because we're very proud. So seeing someone like him do it for his country is quite inspirational. So the song is called Run It Up and it's pretty epic.
Are you into rap music or anything?
Not really.
Not really.
I mean, sometimes you listen. But I enjoy listening to music.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
So for me,
yes. One Shiok Thing.
Can I indulge you with two Shiok Things?
Sure. Sure.
Because one took place actually just 2 Saturdays ago. I was at the Singapore Women's Association.
Okay.
They were celebrating laughter yoga.
Laughter yoga. Wow.
Laughter yoga. So it's the 30th anniversary or something like that. So it's actually quite therapeutic. I mean, actually, when you laugh, you will feel happier. You cannot laugh and not feel happy. So this laughter yoga. So there are a few things to do. So join them because this SWA, the Singapore Women's Association, they are located at the void deck of one of my HDB blocks.
I see.
Okay. So asked me to go and join them for this launch of the laughter yoga. So I encourage everyone, when you feel a little bit down, a little bit stressed, a bit just laugh.
Just laugh.
Of course, they have techniques, but I can't. I'm not a trainer. But
so no need to think of anything funny. Just laugh. Maybe you should do that in Parliament. When things are too tense, laugh.
Everybody stand up.
Everybody stand up and laugh. Oh, that's great.
Okay. Something which just happened over the weekend. I do enjoy my football.
Sure.
The club that I supported when I was 10 years old, you all don't know Derby County. Have you
Derby,
heard?
Derby
no,
County,
Derby County, yeah.
Unfortunately, they are not in the top league and the
Championship.
They are in the bottom 3 now.
Oh, fighting relegation.
In fact, they were second bottom. But last week they notched their 3rd successive win.
Wow,
amazing! So now it's because they've been bottom, right? So they've been losing. At best, get a draw.
Yeah.
So suddenly 3 in a row. So maybe there's hope that they won't be.
But just curious, how do you get to supporting Derby County? And
when I was 10 years old, at that point in time, they were in the top league. They were pretty good. They were champions at one point in time.
Oh, really?
Wow. But you still have been following them all the way.
That's loyalty for you.
But do you watch the games?
They only telecast occasionally. But I follow their results.
You know, there's a Singaporean who's working at Burnley, the club Burnley,
as chief of staff.
So he's actually, we're very excited for Burnley to hopefully get promoted to Premier League, because we can say there's a Singaporean working in the Premier League.
And he's been on the podcast before. His name is Sean Bai, and right now I think Burnley is between 3rd and 4th, so fighting for the Premier League place.
I think the top is Leeds.
So hope lah, Burnley.
Wow.
And I mean, Derby
when
also.
I was supporting them, Leeds and Derby, they were
at the top.
Correct, Leeds.
Wow. But you never over the years thought of switching allegiance to
not that. My son supports Man U.
Okay.
My daughter supports Arsenal.
Then they're safe. The one will never relegate, right? Actually, Man U possibly.
No, I think at least they did pretty well the last. Starting to show some signs of better progress.
But then you never think, like what you said, if there is a better team, then you choose the better team.
Support the better team.
Yeah.
This one is not. This one is you. It's a team issue. So you shouldn't switch sides because your team is not playing well.
It's like Braddell Heights. It's not like you can't just move. It's like years of relationship.
Because I'm a Man U fan, so it's painful now.
My son also. They have many friends who are Man U fans.
Correct. I mean, same thing. I started supporting them when they were top, So now all my friends who are Liverpool fans all just shitting on my face.
At least we know that you are very dedicated. Like even never though they go down to championship and maybe face relegation, you're still there.
So that's 50, 60. 50 over years.
50 over years.
Wow. All the way from Singapore.
But cool. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
We know your schedule is super busy.
Well, but great discussion, because I mean, we've been wanting to get you on ever since you first mentioned us in Parliament.
We spoke at length about that. But thanks so much. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please do remember to follow us. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope to have you back soon at some point.
And all the best for the upcoming elections. We're not sure when, but upcoming.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Great to be able to meet you all in person.
Exactly. Thank you so much. And to everyone listening, thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you all soon.